All right. Good afternoon or good morning, everybody, for our, I suppose, West Coast people. My name is Nolan Duda. I'm the Client Experience Manager for IdealTraits, and welcome to our 25th edition of Success Spotlight. So 2 years and 1 month, and we have a very special guest lined up for you today who's going to bring a lot of information through their abundance of experience. So today's guest, of course, is Shelly Wade. It's important to know here, okay? I'm going to take a quick pause, and I'm going to say, I have coined her with this. She did not come on and say, Nolan, introduce me as this, but I'm introducing her as the queen of recruiting. So if you've come here and you're like, man, I really want to improve my hiring, because I imagine that's why you're here, this is the perfect guest for you to learn from. Again, Shelly Wade, the queen of recruiting. She's the associate district manager. She's been with Farmers for 11 and a half years. Currently works within a Farmers district that has 60 agents, and Shelly works directly with about 35 of them to be able to help them with really everything revolving within their business. But of course, recruiting is one of the main functions. So Shelly, handling 35 people amongst all the other things that I'm sure you're responsible for. Really appreciate you deciding to spend 30 to 45 minutes with us. Welcome to Success Spotlight. Thank you again for your time.
Nolan, thank you so much. And what the intro that was. And I'm so sorry for anyone that is going to be disappointed at the end of this if this is not giving you what you think that you're going to get. But I promise that I'll answer everything honestly and give my real feedback. So I'm excited. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and I can speak for everyone. Just be prepared, because it will not be a disappointment. I know I'm putting a high expectation, but pretty much all of our Success Spotlight guests, without exception, have delivered on that. So with that in mind, Shelly, I know I mentioned, 11 and a half years with Farmers, which is a good amount of time. So if you want to, talk about how you got started, maybe what you did before, and all the different roles that you've had in the last 11 and a half years, I think that'd be a good place to start to give people a little bit of background.
Totally. Yeah, I got into insurance in probably one of the most ironic ways possible. I was moved away about 45 minutes outside of where I grew up to go to college. And I was actually in the middle of looking for a job at the time. And I was driving back to Dallas to nanny for the weekend, which was the kind of career I guess I had a little bit before I went off to college. And I got into a 6-car pileup on the Dallas North Tollway on a Friday afternoon. And I don't know how this happened, but I didn't have a single scratch on my vehicle, but the poor guy behind me's truck was totaled, and it was actually kind of a nightmare situation. But he did hire me on the side of the road, and he was a Farmers agent, and we were in Dallas, but he and I were both from like the Denton area or living there at the time. So yeah, I just started as a part-time telemarketer from 4 to 8, and I had no idea why insurance, but it just kind of happened. So it just worked out for me early on. So that's what I did. I started as a telemarketer after my college classes, 4 to 8. Was I a good one? No, probably not at the beginning. I think my first cold call, I said, "This is Shelly with State Farm," which I wasn't. So yeah, but it worked out eventually. I think I corrected myself. I never made that error again. So yeah, I started working in my first agency, and that's where I fell in love with Farmers. My agent was a brand new agent, new to insurance, didn't know actually one single thing about running an agency. So at times he said, "Help me figure out how to bring in business." And I was 20 or 21 maybe, and I didn't even know what that meant. So I had to figure it out, but I appreciate that in hindsight, because it gave me a lot of hands-on experience to make mistakes and figure out what works best. So I was in a marketing role for a couple of years with 2 different agencies, and I went to an insurance conference about social media marketing. And I remember looking around, and I was like, these people have no idea what's going on, but I do, and I love it. And I just remember thinking, I love working for agencies and helping them grow and bringing in business for them. But I think my long-term job fulfillment is helping multiple agencies at a time, not just one. And so here we are. I've been with Jeff Ivey's district for a little over 8 years, and I could not be any luckier, honestly. So that's where we are today.
Fantastic. Talk about being thrown into the fire.
Yeah. Figure it out. Okay.
And doing so in a good way. And
Yeah.
it's me too, because I think about that story about how you got hired on the side of the freeway. And imagine if that agent at the time would have been like, well, you don't have your insurance license, so maybe not.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was a guinea pig. So that's why I feel like when I am recruiting, I'm totally fine. And we'll talk about it, of course, but I'm totally fine with unlicensed candidates. Like you hire on personality and what they can do and what they say they can do, not just their experience, because everyone starts from somewhere. So I try to look at it at both sides for sure when recruiting today.
I gotcha. All right, fantastic. Well, what a great story. I don't know if I've heard that one. So I got the same surprise that everyone did here too, which is awesome. That's such a treat. So when with the starting and recruiting, as we sort of focus in that, of course, Shelly, you're helping both find agency owners, and then you're also helping agency owners find their own staff. So I'm sure that we'll talk about both. But if we focus just on like when you're helping the agents with identifying their next producer and identifying their next service rep, the first stage of that, as we talk about, is getting a good job ad created. So with working with 30 different agencies that all have different types of opportunities and all bring different things to the table, how do you help them really pinpoint what's going to be most attractive to candidates out there as they're putting together their job ad, if that makes sense?
Totally. Yeah. It's always going to be for us like an evolving job ad. We've posted some in the past, and then I look back at it and I was like, oh my gosh, who allowed that to get posted? We could have done so much better, and it was me, obviously. But, I'm always trying to elevate it a little bit, especially if I'm not getting as many hits as I would have hoped to have gotten at that point of qualified or non-qualified candidates. We'll definitely kind of tweak it. So that's kind of in the past. This year going forward, I just brought on a new recruiter on my team. Her name's Marissa, and she's wonderful. So I have the support of Marissa and Cheney on my team to help me with this kind of stuff. But for this year going forward, we send out kind of weekly feelers to our agents to see, are there any updates? Are you hiring for a particular role? Are you not hiring for this role anymore? Has anything changed since the last time you updated us on what you're needing? And then we'll go through and send them draft ads, and the agent has to approve it, add to it, tweak it, customize it, and kind of same with the comp plan too. We let them determine what that is, and then we put it in an ad and post it for them, and there you go.
Yeah, awesome. As you sort of build out those drafts and communicate with the agents in terms of putting everything together, I know we talked about this a little bit in terms of your own experience, but do you find them typically being open to unlicensed talent versus licensed? How does the conversation around remote feel within the district these days? I know those are hot topic conversations with how difficult it is to recruit in insurance, which is why I'm sure everyone's here today. So I guess if we could talk about that for a little bit, I think that'd be good too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with unlicensed. Unlicensed or licensed candidates, I think it just depends on the agent and what they're looking for. I will say, I think one of my biggest advantages of my current role today is that I'm also coaching my agents at the same time. So pretty quickly, I'm able to identify like, hey, this staff member is not really working out, or this person may be on their way out. Maybe we need to be proactive and kind of have some feelers out there. So it just depends on the agent and what they're looking for. The timeline matters. So if they're like a little bit more far out, where they're just trying to get maybe someone entry level, then that we can help get licensed, and we'll do that. But I started unlicensed. I'm a horrible test taker too. So I always tell people, like, if I can pass it, you're good. Like, just study for like 4 minutes and I promise you're going to pass too. So, that's kind of depending on the agent and what they're looking for. I have some agents that I will absolutely not pass anybody that's new to the industry to, because they don't want that. They want people that have a little bit of experience. But as far as like remote staff works for us, maybe controversial, I'm pretty proud to say most of our team is in office. And I think it takes a very special agent to be able to manage a remote team. And a lot of them don't want to have to do that because most of their team are in the office. But I look at remote opportunities as like something that a staff member can earn. I feel like it's kind of how my DM did it for us. So I'm remote today. If I'm not in an agent's office or at our office, I'm remote because I can focus a little bit more. That's just kind of how I thrive. And so I think for some agents that have production targets on their staff, if they're able to work remotely and their activity and production doesn't dip, like, what's the hurt? You know, if it's something that they're wanting and open to and it makes it a little bit more flexible for them, it should be more of like an incentive-based thing. But full-time remote has not always worked for my team, but I definitely do have remote staff across my agencies.
No, for sure. And I mean, of course, asking the question and thinking about, the 30 folks that you work with, of course, it generally comes down to preference, or it sounds like it does, right? Like some agents only want the experienced folks and some are a little open to both. And then remote seems to, again, be preference. And it depends on the person that's, I suppose, managing the ship, right? Because, I'm sure everyone on here has heard a lot about remote. And if you've never done it before, it's obviously going to be completely brand new. And especially if you have team members that have always worked in office, they're probably then going to be like, well, why can't I work from home? So then it's going to become sort of a situation to where maybe you have to work to build out maybe a fully remote team or have some sort of structure in place. So, of course, I'm working from home today. Shelly is too as well. I manage a fully remote team. They do a great job of making sure that they stay on top of everything, but we make sure that we're keeping track of what the standard is and making sure we give them the support that they need, because it's a lot harder I'm here to say it's a lot harder to train someone in a remote setting than it is in office. Like you can just walk over to their desk and listen to their phone call. Whereas in a remote setting, it's a little bit different, of course. But again, coming down to preference, it's still something that can help you get in front of more candidates and can help you mix things up. So I would say, I mean, I don't know if this is a negative thing, but post a job ad, see what's out there. You never know, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, some planning goes into it before that, right? It's not as easy as flipping a switch, right? There needs to be some sort of plan or process put in place first, and then, see what's out there, and you might stumble across your best employee, right? When you sort of open it up. But
I will say I do have one agent in particular that is the only agent that I have that only wants remote staff. They're like, please don't. I don't want anybody in the office with me, which I love. I will say when recruiting, using their our recruiter access for them to help them in their recruiting efforts, it is a little bit more difficult. And so this may be hindering our growth in, for that agency, but I don't put remote on there or even really a hybrid. I will still put in office, but then in the conversation in the first phone screen and in the ad, we'll put in there that it's a remote role. But I am doing that because I get all the emails when people apply for all of our team, and oh my gosh, there's people that are in other states, which could be okay, or not in other states and not in Texas, and also totally fine, but not for this agent. And so what I do is I just do it local. So it is someone that if we do need to train them in person, or if they need to be in person with the agent ever, at least that's more feasible. And it allows a little bit more quality control for me up front. Just, it's a little easier.
Yeah, you can certainly get a lot of emails very quickly when you switch that to remote.
Do. Yeah.
Yeah. And some data for some folks that are listening, if you're wondering, what we're talking about. So through IdealTraits, if you post an organic job ad, just in general, any type of job ad, organic that's in office, your applicant per average is about 30. So 30 applicants per job ad. If you do a remote posting, it's closer to 100. So as Shelly has mentioned, if she has 5 agents that are posting a remote job ad that each receive 100 applications, she's receiving 500 emails. So again, that's what talking through what she's talking about there. But again, a good way for you to get in front of candidates. If you want to explore remote, maybe it's something that you haven't yet, let us know. We've got a whole team of folks here that will be happy to talk through it with you and assist with that. So staying on the job posting side of it, Shelly, do you have a lot of folks that will sponsor their job ad and put a budget behind it, or are pretty much all of them posted just organically through IdealTraits with what's included in their subscription?
Yeah, honestly, I'll have agents. I know when they've boosted something because I get way more applicants in at that time for them. I see a nice little spike there, but some of our agents definitely do. Honestly, last year we were so blessed, and IdealTraits was really the only paid recruiting source that I used, and
Sure.
it paid us plenty. So yeah.
A little bit of mix, right? And I would say that probably when an agency's in an urgent need or when they do need to see that spike in applicants, that's when you see the sponsorship go on, which can certainly help. All right, cool.
Yep.
All right. Now you mentioned that you have a team of people, so we've progressed past. They've got the job ad created, and then we put the unique things that are in there to, of course, help stand out. We've decided if we're going to sponsor it or not. Now the applicants have started to apply. So what does that process look like for you all and your agents? Right? Like, what's the standard operating procedure if you're talking to an agent who's using IdealTraits for maybe the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. We like to set the tone. So it is a business partnership that we have, our district. We are like, my entire comp plan is surrounded by whether or not my agents grow revenue year over year. So I'm very much locked in with that. So when I'm in the agent's office and we're kind of coaching through stuff, I'm able to identify like what roles they need to hire, right? So we try to be proactive in that. But really, I mean, we just go off the tag method in IdealTraits, and it'll indicate real quick if myself, Marissa, or Cheney has reached out to the candidate first, or if the agent is calling, they've tagged. What I wasn't really sure what was going to happen early on is if if we were going to just be full force recruiting only for the agents, which obviously is totally fine. But really what I've learned over the last couple months, especially, is our recruiting kind of system and process has actually taught my agents how to recruit a little bit too. And so they've got their own efforts into it. So it really is an awesome partnership that we have. But we really take the reins on it. Like I said, I just brought on a full-time recruiter for this year, as my last one, Cheney, is now into more of a trainer recruiter hybrid role. So we've kind of got our days split up. It's new. We just started this. But to make sure that every day there was someone that was going to be able to manage the recruiting arm of our team. So honestly, we are cold call people. And when I'm recruiting for the day, I'm going to pick up the phone. I honestly prefer it that way because I'm able to catch them off guard in a way. I mean, they did apply, so they should be expecting some contact, I guess. But yeah, I like picking up the phone and just calling. Before I do that, though, I do a little research, and it may take a couple minutes to do this before I do a call, just so I can get a better idea of the candidate. But we'll look them up, or we'll see them in IdealTraits, of course. Hopefully they've done the assessment at that point. Read the assessment, kind of see where they applied. What does that align with? Is that really the right personality type for that role? Maybe think of a backup option simultaneously while I'm doing some research. I'll look them up on LinkedIn. I want to see their presence on LinkedIn if they have one available. And then I look them up in the Department of Insurance website. And I want to see when they got licensed, what licenses they have. So I know if I need to pivot and mention that to them on the first call, that maybe they do need an additional license, or they have the wrong license type, or maybe they're not licensed at all. And that's something that we can assist them with. So,
Yeah.
sorry.
100%.
Yeah. So we do, we just cold call. And I think my producer, CSR, marketer, conversations maybe like 10-15 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer if they've got more questions. But what we're doing is verifying that they're good on the phone, that what they're saying aligns with what we're needing. We talk about what our district does a little bit differently and how we can help support them. And then we kind of just tell them what the process is going to be, that well, if the call goes well, and then we tell them what the process will be after, which is if they haven't done the assessment, we'll ask them to complete the assessment before we move forward. But we're going to send their resume, a recap of our conversation notes to the hiring agent. Sometimes it'll be a situation where I may have two agents in kind of similar areas that may be looking for that particular person. So usually my agents are totally fine with us kind of spreading the love in that. But I am personality matchmaking. That is like my only objective after I actually pick up the phone and call somebody, is to see like, is this person going to align with the culture of this agency, or could they be more of a fit for a different agency? Because the experience that my agents and the candidates have is very important to me. And so I'm kind of a no BS, straight to the point kind of girl. So I want it to be quick. I want them to have an opportunity to actually do an interview that next day or that same day if possible. So pretty quick turnarounds.
Speed is the game.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Are you guys texting or emailing candidates at all too, or the calling only?
Yeah. First, we always call, leave a voicemail. I'll email them too occasionally, but not every time. I'm not a chaser too much. I'm very competitive, so don't get that twisted. But I want to, you know, if I'm having a conversation with someone, it's usually the same type of conversation of what I'm saying, and then just listening to how they speak and what they talk about and what's important to them. But yeah, I mean, we'll follow up a couple times, but I'm not, you know, if you don't like what our team has to say from the beginning, then maybe you're just not a fit for us, and that's totally fine. There's lots of other districts in our area that would probably be for them. So there's opportunity everywhere for sure.
Yeah, that transparency goes a long way, right? Because it saves you time, saves them time, and just keeps the candidate process a positive one. Even though it may end in it not working out, it still is positive, right? Because they feel as, you know, you're respecting their time and their interests alongside yours, right?
I also feel like it can be like a red flag early on. Like if you're having to chase someone to get them to call you back, like they're the ones looking for a job, not you. You know, like I don't, you know, if you want this job, I've got other agents. You know, it may not be that one agency that you go with, but like, you know, I'm not trying to chase anybody. Like I've got such a good coaching relationship with my agents and all, you know, the staff in their agencies too. So it's kind of a red flag for me. It's bad communication. You know, if that's how you're going to be in the interview process, like, oh my gosh, it's going to be even worse when you're actually hired probably. So that matters to me. And that's kind of a signal early on if I'm even going to pass somebody. If they're rude, disgruntled, if I caught them off guard and they can't pivot and they can't turn on that interview phone sales type of persona, then like they're definitely not meant to be on my team. They can go somewhere else. But we can kind of see those things early on in the call.
Yeah, you know what you're looking for, right? Yes. And why compromise? Right? That's where too many mistakes happen in recruiting, right? We hear horror stories about. I'm sure you have plenty, right, from the agents that you help, right? They set a clear expectation with you. They deviate from the plan. You're like, what happened? And then it doesn't work out. And you're like, well, because you deviated from the plan. So yeah, for sure, sticking to that plan originally is incredibly important. And yeah, that communication is good. There's a lot of different viewpoints on that, you know, that chasing that you had mentioned, right? Recruiting has evolved over the last, you know, really 5 to 10 years. And I think, you know, 5 years ago, you would say, or 5, 6 years ago, you would say, hey, you know, you're going to get a bunch of candidates and only reach out to the ones that complete the assessment. But it sounds like your team is calling them and then, you know, talking them through the process. And where you're saying to sort of take your foot off the gas is if you've communicated with them a couple of times but are not hearing back, that's inexcusable. Sounds like that's what you're sort of getting at there, Shelly, right?
Yeah, it's almost like even a respect thing in general, which I don't know, maybe a weird philosophy, but I'm like, you know, if someone's not going to call Cheney or Marissa back on my team, well, I trained them. So like, however they're talking to you is exactly how I would want them to, because that's how I trained them to do it. So it's like, if you're not willing to get on a phone screen or just do that first, I mean, we make it so painless too. I think maybe other districts go way more in depth and have lots of listed questions, and we just kind of go with the flow. I'm just gauging personality and knowing my agents and knowing their team, and knowing who I want to like mirror like future staff after of that existing team is really important. So I even had my recruiters both in person, of course, but on the phone call everybody and introduce themselves on my team up front so they can start building their own relationship to kind of get a feel for what that agency is like. So as time goes on, they can personality match candidates into the agencies a little bit better. Now I feel like I can just know this person, do not send this person to that agency, that is not going to work, or I think that's a perfect fit, so it's with time, it'll be clear.
100%. And we are a little bit past the halfway point here too, folks. So encourage you to use the Q&A section. We do take live audience questions here. So throw those in there. I know that I had put my referral link in there too as well. So if you know somebody who, whether they're insurance or no matter what real industry that they're in, if they need some help with hiring, we can help them. So fill out that form. We'll give you a good reward for it. But then more importantly, if you got questions for Shelly, it means she helps so many agents get results within their hiring. One of the top performing districts in the country. So this is a good time for you to ask a question. So please take advantage of that. But I think it's, we've talked about personality matching several times. So Shelly, a little bit of a running joke that we have here on Success Spotlight that I think Kelly's still on here. She'll really like this, is that the persistent is the best ideal traits personality. Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily have any dog in that fight. I may be a persistent in terms of my personality result, but I try not to let my bias affect what is ranked as the best personality. But nonetheless, all kidding aside, when you're personality matching, you're helping fill a lot of different roles. So what personalities, if you could speak a little bit towards that, what personalities you typically have seen worked out for different types of roles, I think that'd be some really good clarity for a lot of folks that may be in different stages of using this assessment in their hiring process.
I look at those assessments, and specifically generally that last paragraph in that shorter assessment is a very clear indicator of what role this person should be in based on their personality type. And so, I mean, even for my team, both, so I tested sales leader, and my first recruiter that I brought on, Cheney, she was perfectionist, and oh my gosh, what a dream that was for me in my chaotic brain, having someone that was so clear-minded and incredible. And then my next recruiter, Marissa, is consistent, which I mean,
Perfect.
could I have gotten any luckier? So I use it for not only like with my agents, but on my own kind of hiring decisions in our own team, which is great. And that matters because I definitely would have not hired other types of personalities for that role. For sales, I mean, persistent, of course, consistent, I think can also be a good one. Sales leader, salesperson. We see a lot of good ones. I think the one that interests me the most or confuses me the most is, in my experience, networkers. I want networkers to be so good in sales and so just like directly sales focused. And I don't always experience that. They can be good in sales, but they're not my top performers. So I do have to kind of keep that in mind when I'm recommending candidates, depending on the agency that they may be looking at. But yeah, I mean, we definitely look at what the result says. And even if the agent doesn't really read into it and take the advice that is in the assessment, I will generally be able to reference it in a future coaching conversation. And, if an agent's having an issue with a staff member or they're having some like coaching struggle or something, I'm like, hey, let's just pull back up the assessment. I've already got it signed in. Let me look it up. And I can pull it up and we just read through it together. And it's like, well, yeah, they're trending properly based on what their results say. Let's pivot. So we really use it too as like, is this agent able to manage and coach that personality type? Is that something in their wheelhouse? Because it can be very different for each person. Some agents don't want to do hand holding and some only want to do hand holding. So the assessment result will pretty much tell you what role that person would be best in.
Man, what perfect usage. And you mentioned networkers. Eduardo, who's Eduardo, to see you. He loves networkers, but the thing with networkers is they'll tell you exactly what you want to hear all the time. You have to be very, very careful. They are the epitome. You think a sales leader is good at people pleasing. Wait till you see a networker start going through an interview process, because they again can tell you what you want to hear, which is interesting, because I think to your point, Shelly, it sounds as if you guys are using the personality assessment well beyond just reviewing the candidate first initially, right? Like you're truly using it to get them into a system that is going to help them really grow and help them flourish, right?
Absolutely.
To where really that's what the result is all about. Of course, it can be used as for you to get information immediately, but really it's one piece of information to a giant puzzle that is recruiting. Very emotional process. The assessment helps you bring about more of a logical perspective, but I think too many people stop using it once they've hired a candidate, and they forget about what makes that person click and really what makes them perform at their best. And they just go back to, maybe if you have a team of, let's say, 5 salespeople, treating those 5 people all the same, but you might have a closer, a persistent, 2 sales leaders, and a salesperson. I mean, in your experience, I would imagine those people have to be treated very differently, no?
100%. I mean, I would never say this if I didn't actually do it. Please know that. But like, they're like scarily spot on. I think maybe occasionally there's some, I mean, like with Cheney, for example, she is an incredible recruiter. She's so good in sales in a way, in that way, but she is a perfectionist to her core. So it is really interesting, the blend in that. So I do take it with a grain of salt, but I also definitely, I believe in what the result is, as long as they actually did the assessment and they did it thoroughly, and got a real result, not just the one that we want them to get, then yeah, I definitely leverage it. And then even in the knowledge bank section too, there's even like more like very in-depth articles about each assessment result. And so we really look at those too, because that helps.
I see that we've got a more of a comment from one of my favorite people in the whole country, Robert Verich. Robert, it's good to hear from you, man. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're holding down California for us. He says every time I do a review, the things that Ideal Traits says they will be good at, not good at, or spot on. So he's just agreeing with you, Shelly, right? In terms of providing some additional evidence to that. Eduardo gave me an LOL, so he must have thought that was fun. I said about
Eduardo, I love a networker. Don't hear me wrong by any means.
Yeah. We're not against networkers here. For anybody who's like, all right, well, what I got out of this is to not hire networkers. We're not saying.
I'm surprised I never tested networker, because that was my role in agency when I was working for agents, was bringing in business. I was marketing and networking and doing all that. So when I did the assessment years ago and got the result, I was like, I guess it kind of makes sense, but I thought I would have tested networker for sure.
Yeah. Difference between that sales leader and that networker personality is the motivation and drive. So the difference is you probably exude the same personability skill or personal skills as a networker, but you have that drive that can take you a little bit farther. Networkers typically take a little bit of a hit on the motivation drive, which separates them from the sales leader. So good information for all those of you listening as we continue to go through that. But all right. A lot about the assessment there. Again, the problem-solving section, I think, is something that's very underrated too as well. So do you guys look at that pretty religiously, or how do you feel about the problem-solving section of the assessment?
Yeah, it's pretty telling. I don't try to judge it too hard. We do also, I think, use it with a grain of salt for sure, just to kind of see what the result says for that person. And maybe it's like a second layer of the review of a candidate of like, okay, does their personality align with what this role is needing? And then let's dive in a little further, even the written questions and stuff. I mean, if they don't do the written assessment and their resume doesn't really have a lot of like, well, that's going to sound weird, but like full sentences, not just, a resume format. We will email with them. We will do something to just kind of make sure. I mean, but the number one thing for us is like, do they sound good on the phone?
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think that's weird at all. Checking sentence structure, the ability to put together a sentence, use grammar, like, all that good stuff, proper punctuation is important, especially when you're going to be emailing a lot. So Robert came back in asking what our results are. So Shelly's a sales leader. And Robert, I'm surprised you asked that question about me. I'm the best personality of them all, which is the persistent, which you all voted is the best. So thank you.
Well, I didn't get surveyed in this, so I don't know about this vote, but no, I'm kidding.
It might have been a survey of one. Who knows? But nonetheless. All right. So dealing with, all the agents as you're coaching them and working them through their hiring process, I'm sure that you have seen, so many different interview practices, both good and bad. So I think that it would be fun to like go through maybe some obviously good interview tactics that you've seen. So you send the agents and they're ready to they're ready to do an interview with a particular candidate. What are some good things that you've seen them do to really get more out of the candidate? To give you some context, in past success spotlights, we've seen people creating role play situations for maybe fake companies, maybe taking them out to dinner, having them write why they feel as if they would be of value to the organization or why they want to get into insurance. These are all things that agents and districts have shared in previous success spotlights as things that they do in their hiring process. So I'm sure that maybe there's a standard operating procedure for that too as well within your district. But what are some good things and then maybe one or two bad that you've seen throughout your time of working with agents too as well?
Well, no bad here. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, honestly, I feel like we just try to be super authentic every time. Not that other people don't do that, but I almost try to talk people out of it before they can commit to being in it in a way. What works, I think, speed. We're competing. I mean, in my own market, I've got 5 other districts that are trying to recruit the same exact people that are applying to my jobs. And so the only thing that I have control over is how fast we reach out to a candidate, the consistent conversation that we have with candidates to set an expectation for our team, and speed to passing them and connecting them with an agent. And if I will never pass a candidate. Maybe I have once or twice in the past, but I will never pass a candidate that I don't feel good about because I don't need my agents to not trust me and my judgment for any reason. So we do try to do some due diligence up front before we call anybody, but especially after, like if they didn't do the assessment up front and we're like, hey, I need you to do this as a kind of a next step. And then once we do have that back, then we'll go ahead and connect them with an agent or two. And it's speed. Because we're recruiting against, if they applied to my job ad, they applied to the 3 other districts that are close to me as well, I'm sure somewhere, in one of their agencies. So
For sure.
the only thing I can do is make ourselves different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So you've passed a candidate over to an agent, they've hired that candidate. And now probably the hardest part begins, in my opinion, which is training that candidate, onboarding them, and keeping them, right? So are there any, maybe it could be third-party organizations or anything in particular that you recommend that agents do to help with training, to help with onboarding, and to help with retention of the candidate? Of course, a good comp plan, a good benefits package is going to go a long way to keeping somebody, right? But they also, want things like career growth. But maybe there's a training program that's out there that you've seen that a lot of agents have used and been successful with.
Definitely. I think what the agent brings to the table is the most important thing.
Sure.
When I think about recruiting, when I think about my day-to-day job, in addition to recruiting, I have to come into it with a servant heart and mindset. And so I feel like the agents have to do kind of the same thing when they're talking to candidates. What are you going to provide to them? Like they're going to do their part by showing up and doing the tasks that you're telling them to do, but are you going to lead them? How are you leading them? And are you effectively leading them? So I think a lot of the responsibility to deliver is actually more on the agent than it is on the staff member. If the staff member doesn't show up and they don't do the things that they're told to do, then fire them. Like, what are we doing? This is business, not friendship. So I think that's kind of a basic, but for the agent, they have to pull their weight and they have to provide the right tools and resources for someone to be successful. It doesn't work if that's not in place or being put into place, right? I think when I'm recruiting, my favorite things to hear are people saying that their agent's not there, their agent's not involved, their agent doesn't provide training, they don't have extra support. And that's literally what our entire team is designed for. So I've got someone on our full district team that can train at any moment. I've got someone that can help with commercial, specialty, life, and financial services. I mean, we've got someone for everything, and that's something that my agents get to use as a recruiting tool on their own, is like, not only am I going to be able to help you with the tools that I'm providing, but we've also got the district support. And again, I think the biggest thing is my compensation is directly tied to my team's growth and results. And like, I'm not doing this for fun. I'm not doing this for free. You know what I mean? So like, if I don't introduce my agents to, the right people or training programs, or, give them options to implement in their own agency, it doesn't really help any of us. So that's why I take it as serious as I do, because it directly reflects in my own revenue. And I would say, obviously, there's always kind of, in my opinion, been the big three as far as like sales training platforms that I like to recommend. So I love Roleplay the Olsen Agency. I really, really appreciate their style. And so that's always a great one. The agents can implement. Insurance Sales Labs also really, really great. And then one of my agents, Brian Scott, has elite agency training, and we use that often as well. So all great. And I had one of my other agents referenced a training platform like that as like a little bit of a babysitter in a way for your new hires. That allows you to like run the business, but then you also have someone that's there to train your staff on all the basics and keep them motivated. And then obviously the hands-on training, blending it with that. So,
and that, that's funny that you mentioned those three. I know that it makes a lot of sense, but Jeremy Olsen, Vlad Trichenko, and Brian Scott, all Success Spotlight guests at one point. So, check them out, folks. They're friends of the program. They're also IdealTraits users similar to you. Yep. So I'm sure that if you had questions about that, they'd be happy to answer how they use it and how to maximize it too as well. And then Shelly, Haley Elder Reyes is also in your district too as well. Yep. She is a past participant of Success Spotlight too as well. So I did link the past Success Spotlight episodes in the Q&A section. So go check out. You should be able to find all four of those episodes. Jeremy, Vlad, Brian, and Haley. They're all in there and all really packed with good information. So Shelly, as we sort of, sorry, were you gonna say something? Sorry.
No, I was just agreeing. Those are the best platforms in my opinion.
Perfect. Yeah, all of them are fantastic. Really good. So Shelly, as we sort of wrap up here, the last question that I ask, of course, every Success Spotlight guest is, one takeaway. I know we've talked about a lot of great things, and I'll sort of recap that here in a moment. But one specific thing that you would recommend that every agent it's non-negotiable as a part of a successful recruiting process, what would be the one thing that you would say that everyone should start doing today if they're not already?
Yeah. So unfortunately, this is me, and I don't only ever have one thing to say. So I will say the first thing would be speed to market. These are like internet leads, and my team has grown very large agencies off of internet leads. So we're big lead fans over here, but think of it just like that. There's someone else calling and reaching out to your candidate at the same time. So your value proposition and how you handle it and how you set the expectation for your recruiting efforts with your candidates, I think is going to differentiate you. And then I would also say, don't chase people. We are not desperate. You want the right people in the right roles that want to be there. If I've had a conversation with any candidate type ever, protege, an agency owner, candidate, a producer, someone unlicensed, I'll talk to anybody. But if you don't like what we have to say, I'm not going to beg you to join us. I mean, I don't have that problem. We get people that are fine with joining our team after they talk to us for 15 minutes. So, and it's worked out great. So speed to market for sure. And come with your value prop.
Yeah, fantastic. Those are really good ones. And I mean, a lot of folks on here may be wondering, they're here to check out, I really wish I had a Shelly and her team behind me managing my recruiting process. And of course, her district is very lucky to, of course, have their team to be able to help them out. And I understand that, not all of you have a Shelly and her team to be able to help you. So we do, of course, have the virtual hiring assistant program at IdealTraits. So I did just link that in the Q&A section too as well. This is an opportunity for you to be able to bring on our team to manage your account for you. And then you can do it for $600 a month, right? And I won't ask Shelly, and I'm not going to tell, but if you
way cheaper than me.
Yeah, if you called up Shelly, her team, it's going to be a lot more than $600 a month. So this is a way for you to be able to have someone take over your account and do a lot of the similar things that we talked about. But Holly did ask. Holly, appreciate the question. She asked you to touch on recruiting for agency owners. I know that, for a lot of you folks that are on here, that may not be applicable to you, but Holly, I imagine it's a part of your role. So Shelly, I know it's a part of yours too. So if you want to talk about that for a little bit, I'm sure you could probably talk a long time about it. But if you want to put some highlights in there about recruiting agency owners, appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd love to. I love leveraging the Protege program, of course. Selfishly for me, it's an opportunity for someone to actually learn in an agency and get the hands-on experience, even if they do have industry experience. So I do love leveraging Protege. My turnaround time's pretty quick on them starting the program to opening up their own agency. But agency owners directly, I go after people that are with other companies today, and it works just fine. You have to have some success stories, I think, or at least know some that you can reference. But I would say even last year alone, I think I had a really healthy mix of people that became agency owners that either didn't have any insurance sales experience prior to joining Farmers. Education background was actually a really big one for me last year. So that one was really cool to see the transition from that industry into insurance sales. They're probably some of my most compliant agents too. So I definitely love that even more. But yeah, I mean, people from, I don't know who's on the call. So I would say what I like to leverage if I'm recruiting someone from another carrier today is there may be another big name carrier that hopefully none of their agents are on this call, but their relationship with like a district support is so different. It is like so big brother corporate from how I'm explained it to, I guess, and how our support is for an agent from that company is very different. We're on the same team. We're here to help them win, help them grow, and our coaching is a positive thing. It's not, oh my gosh, what did I do? I'm in trouble. This is bad. If they're getting a call or a text from me. So those are a little bit more challenging, but usually some of the bigger producers that you may get, just knowing people that are in the industry today is super important. So that's really what I go after. And sometimes I need to leverage Protege with it, and sometimes I don't, which is even better, of course. I leverage agent referrals. Again, I taught my agents how to recruit for me. I showed I'm doing it with them because we're business partners, but when they know that they've got revenue opportunities on the line for themselves, and they see what effort we're putting into it, they're going to be willing to put in some effort as well. So that always helps. And all they have to do is pass them to me and I'll help close it as best I can. So yeah, I'm trying to think, anything specific you want to know?
Yeah.
That
was what Holly had asked, touch on recruiting agency owners. And I'm sure Shelly would be open to it too. Like if Holly wants to email you after maybe with some questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
or LinkedIn. Yeah, you can either way.
Yeah. Feel free, LinkedIn and email, either way. But
I'm always wearing my network, so
yeah. It's so funny that what you're saying. I thought of this. Kevin, our CEO, and I had a meeting, I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago. But we met with this guy who's not in insurance at all, but he was talking about his recruiting process. And I was like, well, what are you doing now? He's like, I call it guerrilla warfare. And I'm like, okay, well, this will be interesting. He's like, when I interview a candidate, what I will do is one of the last questions I ask them is who are 2 to 3 people that they worked with in the past that they would want to work with again.
Yeah.
And then he gets their contact information, like he gets their name and phone numbers right there on the spot. And then he calls those people and then he recruits them. Obviously when vetting them and going through their process. So
like
all of you that are listening, Shelly, steal that, please do. But for all of you that are listening, think about how you could do that. Think about how many interviews you've done for however long your agency's been open, whether it's a year or a couple decades, right? Like think about how many interviews you've done and how many candidates you've gone through and how many people you've hired to where you could have asked them that question, a very simple question, captured that information from them, and then made it easier on yourself. It's the same thing that we tell our salespeople when they're calling leads. Ask for the referral because it's going to make it easier for you to be able to get more business in the door, right? So It's such
Never
a
know.
I admittedly had told them, I was like, I've never heard that before. In 7 years, never heard that before. And it sounds like it's the first time you're hearing it too, Shelly. So we're
Love
all,
it.
but
Yeah, I think that's great. I think the other thing, the last thing I'll say on recruiting an agency owner candidate, those don't apply. I don't get those on IdealTraits direct job ads. Those types of candidates generally, I go after direct on LinkedIn or something. And I'm a little bit more aggressive with it. But even then, I would still have them doing like the assessment. Anyone that we get from a referral, anything outside of IdealTraits, that was literally the only paid platform we used last year to get hired, not just interviewed, hired 41 staff. So it definitely works, but we don't wait for them to apply specifically. Proteges we get hits on, but generally if we're just trying to go straight retail or something, it's an agent referral or just very proactive approach, very targeted.
yeah, fantastic. So yeah, Hal, if you have any other questions or need some help, feel free to reach out to us at IdealTraits. Feel free to reach out to Shelly herself. I'm sure she'd be willing to answer some questions for you too as well. But we covered a lot of great stuff here, folks. I know that we ran a little bit over time, but it was well worth it. We first talked about, hey, if you need a little bit of a spike in your candidates that you're receiving, consider sponsoring your job ad. Okay. We do have a promotion that's going on with Indeed. So if you've never done that before, let us know. We might be able to get you involved in that promotion. But nonetheless, if you have before, consider redoing it because it can be such a good thing to get you in front of more candidates faster. We talked about making sure we use the assessment beyond just the initial interview or just beyond the initial screening, right? Using it to truly maximize someone's potential, to get the most out of them and to really help them flourish. I assure you that when you use the assessment, the more comfortable you get with it, the more you'll start to believe in it and the more you'll start to really see its magic at play. All right. And then, as Shelly had mentioned, one of the key takeaways is to speed to market. Okay. In today's recruiting atmosphere, whoever gets there first oftentimes gets the attention of the candidate. So if you don't have a team of people like Shelly on your side, reach out to us about the virtual hiring assistant program or use the texting and automated workflows feature that's already in your account. It's in there, it's waiting for you to use it, and it's gonna be a difference maker for you. But again, we covered a lot of the stuff on here. I know it's a lot to take away, but assure you, if you just implement one or two things that we talked about here today, your recruiting process and your results will be better because of it. All right. So Shelly, again, thank you so much for spending your time. Queen of recruiting. So much.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. Nolan, you're funny for that. You are funny for that. I appreciate you very much.
Of course. I appreciate it very much. Shelly, we've had I know that your relationship originally started with Jeff and then it sort of, I got molded into that. So I'm very grateful to have you as a friend and as a client and all the things in between. So appreciate the time that you've given us, appreciate the support over the years. And I know that everybody got a lot out of this session. So thank you.
Hope so. Thanks for spending your time with us. Have a great day.
See you later, everybody. See you next month.
Yes.